Hello and welcome to this particular episode of Doing Business in Rwanda. You're with me, Naringwa Fiona Muthoni. Rwanda continues phased reopening of its economy, and the travelers are anxiously waiting for the resumption of commercial flights at the Kigali International Airport after almost 5 months. On today's episode, we'll look at the economic significance of the anticipated reopening on August 1st, as well as the health and safety measures that have been put in place. On a quiet afternoon at the Kigali International Airport, no movement of passengers rushing to catch their flights or noise of incoming and outgoing aircrafts. The airport that handles more than 1 million passengers annually has been closed to commercial flights for about 5 months now as one of the measures to curb the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. But August 1st is a much-awaited date when the airport reopens. Various health and safety measures have been put in place in line with the new international guidelines.
We are doing things to make sure we get it right. And we are basically adhering and enforcing regulations and standards that are recommended by World Health Organization, our Ministry of Health, and ICAO. ICAO, which is International Civil Aviation Organization, came up with what they call CART, C-A-R-T, standing for Aviation Recovery Task Force Measures and Recommendations. So from that, ICAO being a global rule-making body for all of us, we are enforcing those guidelines, and we are going to make sure that we enforce them. And ICAO has on her portal created a COVID portal, and we update on a daily basis, and we are one of the states that are leading in the implementation of those efforts.
Social distancing markings, touchless hand sanitizers, thermal cameras, as well as robots that will be used in detecting COVID-19 cases are one of the many features that have been added to the airport to ensure it's safe for passengers.
In order to ensure the safety of passengers who are going through Kigali International Airport, a number of measures have been put in place. As you've seen, we have social markers on the floor, on the walls, on the seats to emphasize the social distancing. We have hand sanitizers throughout the terminal to ensure that passengers are able to sanitize their hands throughout their journey. We've put visors on all the desks to avoid contact between the passenger and the agents. We're encouraging people to check in online before coming to the airport, again to avoid that contact. We've put in self-check-in kiosks as well, so passengers can check themselves in. As you've seen, there's also RBC has put in place thermal cameras to screen temperature screening for passengers as well. So a lot of work has been put in place to ensure that the airport is a safe environment for passengers and the staff.
We've been preparing this moment so that our airport is safe for all our passengers who will be arriving, but also for the staff and for departures. So what we put in place is to make sure everyone who is coming is tested. With a test that is not older than 72 hours. Then at arrival, all passengers will be tested. Within 24 hours, they receive results. If they are positive, they'll be managed as positive cases. If they are negative, they continue their business. So we required to get 2 tests. One test can be done abroad, and another test will be done here. That is one. Number 2, we need also to put in place other measures at our airport. You've seen that we have different places for hand sanitizing, social distance. We are also protecting our staff when they talk to customers. There's a separation. There's a face shield masks. So that there are different tools that we are putting in place here so that we maximize these protections to the people who are coming, people who are departing, but also to our community and our staff who will be working from this airport.
After identifying the first case of COVID-19 in March, Rwanda moved fast to impose a lockdown and close its borders. Economic analyst Ted Kaberuka shares his thoughts on the cost of the airport closure to the economy and the significance of its reopening.
The airport closure has a huge impact on the economy because, Rwanda being a landlocked country, airport is one of the shortest gates for Rwanda to access the international market. For business, for tourism sector, for investment. So the airport being closed, it costs a lot for the economy because no investors coming in, no tourists coming in, and even for Rwandan to import, when there's no flights, people don't travel. So it costs a lot for the economy. It's a global crisis. I think we should not only look at it nationally or in the region. It was a global crisis due to the COVID-19, but as countries are coping with the pandemic, the reopening actually of the airports is start to bring the new perspective, and whatever is being reopened, it will come with some strict measures to respect so that people can still fight against the spread of the pandemic. But what is interesting for this particular case, we expect to see the tourism sector reviving slowly. We expect also to see the hospitality industry at large picking up again, but also other sectors related to the international travel, foreign investment, coming again, and so many other opportunities related to the movement of people and goods coming back in operations.
Competition in the region's aviation sector has grown tougher in the recent years. Ensuring safety at airports and aviation in general is also going to have a huge but necessary financial cost.
Definitely, it's a huge investment, but it's a necessary investment. In order to instill confidence for people to start traveling, that investment has to be done. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but it's necessary for us to do it. So we are focusing on that, and we are hopeful that in the near future we will see the traffic increasing and the sales also growing as we move forward.
The cost is going to be high. First of all, it wasn't anticipated in the beginning, but it's manageable and achievable.
Rwanda national carrier Rwanda has been undergoing rapid expansion, having increased its destination to 28 last year. Flying to new destinations this year is one of the plans that went awry due to the pandemic.
Our plans have had to change. Now the focus is really on rebuilding our network again. But once we rebuild our network, we are going to focus on growth as well. So the plans are still there. They've been delayed because of this pandemic, but we will focus on that as well.
The pandemic has had the worst effect on aviation sector in history. Data from International Airport Transport Association indicate that between January and July this year, the travel demand has dropped by 54%, with a staggering $419 billion was lost in revenues. Although airports are gradually reopening, experts believe it will take long for the aviation sector to bounce back to pre-COVID levels.
Very few people would decide to go unless you have really something very urgent to sort, which push you to travel. So which means the passengers number is still low, up to maybe this first, I would say this quarter of August to October, and then toward the end of the year when we will go back to the high season, the number will increase. But what is predictable is that the airline sector won't be profitable before 2 years, starting from now. What is important for this particular time is, countries or government need to sustain their airline companies so that they won't collapse financially. But those the aviation sector help other sectors to recover slowly.
The aviation industry at the minute is defined by so many uncertainties. Obviously, the coronavirus crisis is still ongoing. We know to some extent the damage that has been caused, it's enormous because we've had a total shutdown of the aviation industry. I think we have to look at previous crises in the industry to get an idea of how the industry might react once these restrictions are eased. But the general consensus is that it might take us some good years, probably 3 to 5 years, to get back to pre-COVID-19 levels. And it's going to be very, very tough.
It's therefore deemed important for airlines on the continent to embrace cooperation and safety.
We have to look at the way business has been done. We have to look at our culture as an African industry. I think we need to rework and think outside the box. Cooperation is extremely important going forward. Our airlines need to learn to work together. One of the issues that we're going to face once all these restrictions are eased, we're going to find that the industry has an overcapacity. There's simply too many seats available for the demand in the industry. We have too many players in the African aviation space. I think this has also affected the staffing. We've lost pretty much a half of aviation supported jobs across Africa, which is massive damage. Speaking about the health and safety side and how we're going to move forward, I think airlines have a challenge to demonstrate that they're going to be safe for airline passengers to get back into them. I think just to even ease up on some of the fears, an airline cabin replaces the air probably every 2 to 3 minutes. I think it will be safe to fly. It's going to come down to the governments and the restrictions that are put in place on passengers in terms of physical distancing. But that said, it's not really sustainable. Our airlines, they already do not make money, even under the conventional setup. So if you're telling an airline that you only have a capacity of about 60%, how are they going to survive going forward? And that said, when this happens, that's going to be passed on to the passengers in form of a more expensive airline ticket. And we already have a challenge that airline passengers are going to find it difficult to get back into the aircrafts. Now, if you're going to increase the price of the ticket, you have a bigger problem in convincing the wider public to get back into air travel.
That brings us to the end of today's episode of Doing Business in Rwanda. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, suggestions, or you'd like to get in touch with us, do write to us on Twitter at CNBC Africa, or you can tag me directly at Fi Muthoni. You are with me, Naengwa Fiona Muthoni. It's bye for now.